Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com, here with a little bit of an update to the deck I've been working on in Standard at the moment. Whoa, I'm loving Standard. Standard is insanely wide open. Just go and check MTG Goldfish, as well as the Star City Open, as well as some other tournaments here and there, and you can see what a diverse metagame this is at the moment. My original League decks had a lot of Torrential Gear. So the first two leagues I did had a ton of Torrential Gearhulk decks, so I switched up to build a deck to beat out the Torrential Gearhulk decks and still have game versus the Mario Vehicle decks. And then I kept going against red-white humans and red-green like aggro and all these other stuff. So it really is what I like to call a rock, paper, scissors, cockroach and bomb format. So I'll talk about that in my Market Monday video tomorrow on how I describe the different archetypes and how you basically want to find a deck that's good against all of them. So this is the deck I've come up with. I haven't had success in the league so far, as I think it's more than variance rather than other issues with the deck. Zach can attest, last night I was playing and I hard casted Ulamog every game after sideboard. I not one time got the Aetherworks Marvel to actually come out. So Aetherworks Marvel were on the bottom of my deck almost every game, and I was bitching up a storm again, just ask Zach how angry I was of drawing every serve in the Conduit and Attune with Aether every game, and no Aetherworks Marvel. And no Whirler Virtuoso. So anyway, I was good on the deck tech with this though. So anyway, the 3-2 league finishes were quite bad, but I mean, they still pay for themselves when you go 3-2. So can't complain there. So anyway, this is what I like to call 4-color energy. Why I added black is this is the missing piece against Torrential Gearhulk decks, is a Glint-Sleeve Siphoner. It's also pretty decent versus like green-white and even Mardu. You'd be surprised at how good this is as a 2-drop, as it just allows you to continue to start gaining energy as well as drawing cards. And so everything this deck has insane value. We are running a 4 of Tireless Tracker, a 4 of Whirler Virtuoso, a 4 of Rogue Refiner, and a 4 of Glint-Sleeve Siphoner, just because all of these replace themselves. And they try to stall you the game until Chandra or Nissa can win the game. We also have another energy jump. Our 2 energy dumps are going to be the Bristling Hydra and the Whirler Virtuoso, as well as the Glint-Sleeve Siphoner, and to a point, Aetherworks Marvel. Aetherworks Marvel is more in here for the sideboard. We bring it against the matchups where the Ulamog is really good against, but I don't like running it main because we usually do have game versus everything, and then when we do side the Aetherworks Marvel in, it just makes us have a better matchup versus some of those Gideon-type style decks. So the mana slot is pretty self-explanatory. It's just 4 Aether Hubs, 3 Blooming Marshes and Spirebluff Canals, 4 Botanical Sanctums, and then we have just a 1 of Island, a 2 of Mountains, and 4 Forests and a Swamp. This allows us with Attune to easily have 4 colors. You never have mana problems with this deck. I mean, very, very rarely, because either the Servant or the Attune allows you to fix, and the Aether Hub is very good at fixing as well. Then our 2-drop slot, I used to have more removal in the slot, but Harness Lightning just seems to be the key card because it becomes our other mana dump or energy jump to kill Torrential Gearhulks. What else did I kill that was huge? There was it was either a Bristling Hydra or a Long Tusk Cub or something that was really pumped up and was able to Harness Lightning it and had that sort of energy. Then we had the Servant of the Conduit, and all these are great as turn 2, like versus an aggro deck, Harness Lightning is great, or establishing a Siphoner or a Servant of the Conduit on turn 2 is also very, very good. Then our 3-drop slots are really where this deck shines. Tireless Tracker might go out again. I might find a better outlet in for the Tireless Tracker at the 3-drop. It is definitely the 4 cards that were the last included in this list. So I don't think... don't be too picky about Tireless Tracker. It dies to a lot of things, but it's another card that just gets a lot of value and can become a finisher later on. We don't have like Evolving Wilds in this particular deck. Usually I like the Tireless Tracker in the sideboard. That's where it's been because it's so good in certain matchups because of the amount of card draw it gives you. So then we have the Whirler Virtuoso is really, really good because it's insanely good versus Gideon decks and green-white tokens decks. It's also really good against aggro because it just stalls out your opponent until you can find your bigger threats. And Rogue Refiner does that as well. Gains you energy, draws you a card, puts back a 3/2. So this deck is very, very aggressive on its 2-drop, a 2/1 and a 2/2 into a bunch of 3/2s or 2/3s. The Whirler Virtuoso you got to think of as a 3/4 because it puts out, or at least a 3/3, it puts out another power on board, one of them kind of being evasive power, and then you can actually utilize like the Servant of the Conduit. So all of these are pretty aggressive compared to other creatures in the format. Then we have Chandra, Torch of Defiance, which is, this is our win con in the deck. Usually by getting just so much value out of this Chandra with the exile the top card of your library, but eventually if you do ult this, it's game over. Bristling Hydra can get out of control. Might want to cut a Tireless Tracker for another Bristling Hydra, because right now it's pretty good with the ability to give it hexproof. It's miserable for a bunch of the control decks at the moment for trying to get rid of it. And then just the one of Aetherworks Marvel, because why not? It is just more and more value out of this deck. And this card is really powerful. Nissa, Steward of Elements. Casting Nissa, Steward of Elements is super good for even 3. If you end up casting it for 3 and then scry 2, it hits all of this. Gets, well, besides the Harness Lightning. So you have 4 Rogue Refiners, 4 Servants, 4 Glint-Sleeve Siphoners, 4 Tireless Trackers, and 4 Whirler Virtuosos that you can start getting off of the scry. In fact, the only thing it doesn't hit is the Bristling Hydra. I mean, it wouldn't hit any of these anyway if it was up higher. Then if you, what ends up happening too, if you stall the board out with like Whirler Virtuosos, you can plus Nissa a couple times and have it in range for Nissa to ult. There are many games where I ulted a Nissa, cast another Nissa for 8, ulted a Nissa, swung for 20. I'm telling you that scenario happened a lot more than you'd think. So the sideboard though is really sideboard against Torrential Gearhulk. We have Dispossess. Dispossess is just super, super good against Torrential Gearhulk, as on turn 3 you just get rid of their win con. Scarab Feast is in here for prized amalgam decks. Scarab Feast is the key card against that matchup because you just exile their prized amalgams, and then you can cycle it away if you need to. The rest of the deck comes in versus, so the main board's good against the aggressive decks because you're just clogging up the board. It also has game versus the mid-range. And then the sideboard, you bring in like the Ulamog package. So the Aetherworks Marvel, Nissa's Renewal, World Breaker, Spring to Mind, and Ulamog are really good against the Mardu and green-white decks and anything that's running Gideon or anything that's trying to be more of a mid-range strategy. A lot of decks just can't handle Ulamog. I don't like running it in the main. I mean, you could definitely kind of do a different... I mean, Glint-Sleeve Siphoners, and then, I don't know. You could mix and match how you want this, if you wanted this in your main or your sideboard. But I tend to win a lot of game ones just before, and then there's a lot of people, though, I mean, maybe this is a better strategy for having the Ulamog in the main and then the sideboard take it out, because a lot of people start bringing in a lot of hate cards and they don't have it. Like, I remember so many times, like, Release the Gremlins. They saw the one of Aetherworks Marvel from Mardu, and so they'll bring in Release the Gremlins, and then I'm having to, like, use it on a Thopter token or something. It's usually not a very good card in their hand. I used to have Release the Gremlins in the sideboard as well as the Manglehorn, but I ended up cutting them, just because I think Mardu is pretty easy to clog up the board and just get to your later game cards. Chandra's super good in that matchup, by the way. Heart of Kron gets stopped by the Whirler Virtuoso tokens. And I don't know, I've had a lot of success versus Mardu and green-white and those type of things. Pretty decent versus the aggro decks. You clog up the board very well. And in Torrential Gearhulks, you get the Dispossess makes the Dispossess and the Glint-Sleeve Siphoner went from a losing record versus Torrential Gearhulk to a pretty 50-50. And then Aetherworks Marvel is still a very, very good card versus a lot of decks in the format right now can't beat the Ulamog unless you have to hardcast it every game like I do. Which, I was able to hardcast Ulamog in most of those games through either Chandra's and Nissa's Renewal or like Spring to Mind and the Servant of the Conduits. Those you end up 10 mana is something that is actually viable. So anyway, that's been my latest deck that I've been playing in Standard right now. I know this isn't very rogue. This is just kind of going off an archetype, but it just has the most game against the most amount of decks at the moment, and this is the deck I'm most comfortable with. And Nissa is super fun. So this is probably my favorite card out of Amonkhet so far to play with. I'm going to have my top 8 cards to brew with, our top 10 cards to brew with coming out on Tuesday. And then the Rogue Market, I think, is going to be pretty good for just talking about the metagame in general, as well as potential pickups that are undervalued at the moment. So I just thought I'd try to get a video out. I'm going to try to do a video every day, and just to keep the channel momentum going, but there are a lot of the upper quality, higher quality videos coming out shortly. Having this studio computer has just really made the productivity up way high, so appreciate everyone that's ever bought a playmat or donated to the Patreon or just supported the channel in any way that they've done. Taking off the ad block on YouTube too, for example. All of those have gone a long ways to help funding. All the money that's put into Rogue Deck Builder goes to equipment, and we still have a lot of plans for the future, like backdrops, lighting, things like that. We need a camera. That's one thing that we're working on for like box openings and things like that. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. If there's any changes, of course, in the comment section below. I'll have the deck list in the comment section below. This has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.